Welcome to Osteo Boston, and just want to say we are excited to be a community of solution seekers for better bone health. And I want to remind everyone, if you're watching this live, we're excited you're here because you're part of our organization. And if you're watching it on YouTube, and like the video, please like it and let us know that by giving us a thumbs up. And you can also subscribe to our channel to see the very latest things that Osteo Boston is putting out there. And it helps us to define content and be able to explore that. So appreciate that. Okay, so tonight I just want to say how excited I am that we're going to have Claire Gill with us. Claire has been instrumental in the implementation of the BHOF bone health policy for the nation. She, through that, has sought to develop and guide governmental and insurance policy related to bone health. And she's brought together insurers and agencies and physicians and patients to focus on the development of sound bone health policy. We're so excited about her. She has a huge background as well in marketing and has been a huge asset already to the BHOF, the Bone Health and Osteoporosis Foundation. And so Barbara is going to share a little bit more about her. And Barbara, let me just spotlight you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. It's our good fortune tonight to have Claire Gill with us, the CEO of the Bone Health and Osteoporosis Foundation. Claire has been with this organization since January of 2013, and she's had various roles in BHOF. Which include Chief Marketing Officer. She's been the Chief Mission Officer. She was interim CEO before assuming that role full-time in May of 2020. So at the BHOF, Bone Health and Osteoporosis Foundation, she has led all of their consumer and professional education programs. In her role as Chief Mission Officer, Claire created the Healthy Bones, Build Them for Life Patient Registry, which was a first in the osteoporosis industry. And as Shelley mentioned, she helped to launch the National Bone Health Policy Institute, and she created the Coalition to Strengthen Bone Health, an organization that now consists of 20 different patient organizations. Osteoporosis is not her only passion and concern. She has also founded and launched the National Menopause Foundation that happened in September of 2019. And this foundation was set up to bring about a positive change in how people perceive and experience health at midlife. She continues to be involved in that organization as a board member. So without further ado, Claire, what a joy and privilege for us tonight. I'm going to hand it off to you.
Thank you so much. The privilege is really all mine. I appreciate kind of taking some of the time for your meeting. I know you guys want to connect, and it's so important with the support groups. I'm coming to you from this fabulous hotel decor. As you can see behind me, I'm actually at a conference in Palm Springs, California, where it's a balmy 104 degrees, which is incredible. And you know, everyone does the whole, it's dry heat. And I'm like, yes, but if I put my head in the oven, it would be dry heat too. And I don't want to do that either. So I appreciate that it's warm and sunny, and I'm using that, but this pale skin is so layered in sunblock right now, you have no idea. But I'm really excited because part of the reason I'm here is it's a conference on reproductive longevity and aging. And so it's really this mingling of my two passions, as you talked about, the Menopause Foundation and bone, because all of these scientists are looking at not just reproduction, how to extend reproduction for fertility issues, but this is really about if we extend reproduction in women, do we then put off some of the crisis we have when we reach menopause? Bone health, cardiac, breast cancer, right? The biggest things that happen to us at menopause. So they're looking at how can we manipulate this, and why are human women and a couple of species of whales the only animals that go through menopause. And that's really kind of fascinating stuff, right? So there's so much to be studied and so much to do, but it's been really enlightening. And I've been spending the last several days with scientists. So I can't tell you how nice it is to talk to all of you right now, because you'll understand me and I'll understand you. And I haven't had that for the last couple of days. It's been a little bit intimidating, but great stuff. So again, thank you for inviting me. I did put together a couple of slides because just looking at me the whole time is probably not that exciting. So let me just see if I can, share my screen. As co-host, I probably should. Yeah. Okay. Let me see. There we are. Do that.
Ah, great.
And then do this slideshow. Maybe from start. So like I said, I wanted just a couple of slides to talk through with you tonight, a little bit around what are we doing and where are we going in the bone health field. And when Shelley and I talked about, what to cover, there were so many different things that we could talk about, but we thought these might be the most interesting to all of you and lead to some good discussions once I leave the meeting. Let me see, advance. I have to advance down here. Okay. So, you've already heard a little bit about me, but at least my professional background. But what you didn't hear about me is, much like you, bone health and osteoporosis have really impacted my family. My mom had osteoporosis. She broke her hip at 83. It was my daughter's first Christmas, and we spent it in the rehab hospital with my mom. And I wasn't working at what was National Osteoporosis Foundation at the time. I was a partner in a PR firm, and my sister and I found statistics from NOF about the number of people, 25% of people die within the first year post hip fracture. And we just thought this was incredible. And this couldn't be how our very with it, vivacious, active mom, ended her life. Fortunately, it wasn't. And then a year later, coincidentally, I ended up working on a potential partnership between NOF and a client of mine on the food side in food PR. And when I explained to the then CEO, Amy Porter, which some of you may have known her, that I was leaving my PR firm, and she said, come meet with me. And that's how my career at NOF and BHOF began. But so that's why it's really important to me. As you all are well aware, there is a huge genetic component to osteoporosis. And so given that my mom broke her hip and had several vertebral fractures, and unfortunately passed away at 90 as a result of a fall. This time there were no broken bones that were bleeding on her brain, and she never recovered. And so again, this really matters to me and to my family. And so it's a real honor for me to now be leading this organization and working with all of our support group leaders and our clinicians and our volunteers and wonderful staff who I hope you've had an opportunity to meet, to really advance bone health awareness and to do whatever we can to ensure that people have long, active, healthy, independent lives. And then Bone Health and Osteoporosis Foundation, as we talked about, was the National Osteoporosis Foundation. And one of the first things I said to the board when I came back to be the CEO was we need to look at our brand. It's been 38 years that the organization's been in existence. What are we doing well? What are we not doing well? How can we do better? And so we underwent a brand review, and it was an 18-month process. It was really interesting. It was fantastic to learn from all of our constituents, the doctors, nurses, PAs, orthopedics, every element, as well as patients. And then the general public, people who don't know our organization, people who don't know about what we're doing, but just kind of giving them a sample of what we're about and asking them to weigh in on what they thought an organization like ours would do. And interestingly, the biggest change was people just wanted us to add bone health to our name, to emphasize that we do prevention as much as we do osteoporosis diagnosis and treatment. And that really makes sense to all of us. And I hope that made sense to you. And so that's how we became the Bone Health and Osteoporosis Foundation. We'll celebrate our 40th anniversary in 2024. which is a significant milestone for an organization. And so we're looking forward to doing some really great programming around that as well. And so then I want to talk a little bit about you, this support group and what you do, and then how we all kind of connect and work together. So you may not know, but your organization is one of 24 organizations around the country that are affiliated with the Bone Health and Osteoporosis Foundation. We ask that all of our support groups, if they are, affiliated directly with us, have a person who you can tap into with clinical expertise in bone. So you have that. And then again, that we, work with you to help support the activities that you're doing locally by providing all the information we can and we have to be able to help you as you're having your conversations and your journey to better bone health. We provide curriculum ideas to some of the support group leaders, and then it's up to them whether or not they want to use that materials to guide conversations and to lead meetings and such, but we do provide all of that information. And we're always looking for, new opportunities to grow this support group. We've had over 35, I think, back in the day kind of thing, but a lot of them, either transferred to people who retired or weren't interested in doing it, or just kind of became less active. So the 24 that are now affiliated across the country are very active, like you. And we very much appreciate your involvement with us and that you come together to support each other, which is hugely important. But I also want to talk about some other things that we do that you may not know about and that can help you as well as this support group. So we do have an online support community. We have about almost 75,000 members on that community. And it was established, much like these local support groups, to provide peer-to-peer support for people. We have different discussion topics that people can weigh in on. And it's really just an opportunity for people to come together, ask questions, find out what other people are doing to manage their bone health. And then just a variety of things. It's really community, an opportunity to especially reach people when, they may not be able to get out of their home all the time. Being able to talk to people online can be very, very impactful. We have a bunch of volunteer moderators who help us manage those 75,000 members. They welcome people to the community. They direct them to information. They make sure that everybody's being really respectful and helpful on the community. And that's a volunteer opportunity that we have that is just really, really important. I would say of the 6, 4 are patients, and then 2 are clinicians with an interest in patients, mostly physical therapists and nutritionists. So not really MDs. It's really very, local focused and back on the individual, the person, to kind of be involved in it. And you might have seen that we've been doing a new feature over the last couple of years, which many people, suggested to us, I will say, over my tenure, is that we really focus on the patient voice and that voice be positive. So we call this Voices of Hope. And it's really kind of providing that patient perspective again on what people didn't know about bone health until they developed osteoporosis. And then often, or they knew from a long time because of family history like mine, that it was a potential, and then, what they did when it happened. And that's really important for people to see, not only the general public, but also, members of the community. When people go to our website for the first time after they've been diagnosed, many of you know what that felt like. And it can be scary and it can be intimidating, and you're looking for information, and then to sort of hear from other people who have been through it and are doing well and are, really managing it and just getting on with life is really important. So I would also have you guys think about that opportunity to maybe share your story if you're interested, and inspire other people, which I think is something we all need every day, but particularly these days. I also listed out a couple other things here on the slide that just kind of talks about some of the programs and things that we offer that you might not be aware of, but might be interested in. You can find out all of this on our website, the main bonehealthandosteoporosis.org site. And I apologize that went from NOF.org, which was really easy, to the full words, bonehealthandosteoporosis.org. But between you and me, well, not between me and you, because we can Google it, but BHOF is actually a burlesque organization, we found out. And there's also a church in the Bronx that has the same bhof.org and bhof.com. So we went with the full bone and osteoporosis. So don't Google BHOF unless you really want to. But we have Bone Talk podcasts and blogs. We are always available to answer questions. And we were noting here that we've had more than 3,200 patients reach out to us with questions at the national office. And then we were promoting things during National Nutrition Month. So you may know, I hope, after your last meetings that Osteoporosis Month was in May, Osteoporosis Awareness and Prevention Month. We've named it now because we really want to focus on prevention. And we did a lot of webinars during the month focusing on various topics. And you can access all of those on our website too. And I'm sure Shelley may have already shared those with you. And then we were talking about this. I'm not sure how far this made it into our communities, but Iris Apfel, who's that picture of that lovely young lady there on the right with the big glasses, you might have seen her before. She's kind of become a fashion icon, and she just released a new clothing and accessory line with H&M stores. Iris is 100, and she'll be 101 in August. And she's been in our database for a number of years, but we really didn't have any involvement with her. And after sending her a little extra note on one of my CEO letters this year, she responded and has gotten involved. And I joked with her that I spent 18 months rebranding so that people wouldn't think osteoporosis is just an old white woman's disease. And now I have a 100-year-old white woman who wants to be the face of Osteoporosis Foundation. But she said, it's a great opportunity. And she's right, because we can say, if you think it's only people like me that get osteoporosis, you're wrong. And we can talk about men, and we can talk about younger women, and we can talk about minorities, and we can talk about the fact that this happens to everyone, regardless of their ethnicity or their age or anything. And we really need to make sure more people are aware of that. So Iris we've done an ad campaign that's still running on Facebook and Instagram. So you might see those where she's drawing attention to the fact that osteoporosis is important to know about, and it links to our website. And then it was her idea to do a TikTok dance with we've secured the ballerina. And unfortunately, Miss Apfel, she called it the Osteo A Go-Go, and she got her second booster shot, and it really put her under the weather. So she wasn't able to do the TikTok dance, but we did release the one from Tyler Peck, who is one of the premier ballerinas with the New York City Ballet. And again, it talks about the importance of bone health at every age, and that she and Iris wanted to let people know this. And so the video appears on both of their Instagram and Facebook pages. So I think that's kind of exciting that we're kind of getting more attention to it. Iris Apfel has 3 million followers on Instagram. So she's like, I tell her she's the most famous person who has my cell phone number because she's using it. She calls me now pretty frequently, and it's really great that she's involved. And we hope that we'll be able to do more using her influence with people of all ages. I've talked to my daughter, who's 11, thinks she's the coolest person and wants to go shopping with her. And so I'm hoping that more people will also look at her as a real inspiration and pay attention to their bone health. So I want to talk a little bit now about clinical aspects, because I think it's, in addition to everything that we offer to patients and to care partners to find out what they need to know about how to navigate the osteoporosis journey, we also spend an inordinate amount of time, believe it or not, trying to educate clinicians about what they need to know about osteoporosis and bone health. Unfortunately, it's not covered in most medical schools with any great, amount of time. And so there's a lot of learning to be done, particularly for family practice and internal medicine clinicians about, how to identify people who are at risk, and then what they should do when they have a patient who has osteoporosis, and also focusing on what is the care pathway post-fracture. And I'd be curious, for some of you in your experience, if you have fractured before, what was that process like? Because unfortunately, across the United States, there is an 80% care gap of someone over the age of 50 who has fallen and broken a bone and has received no follow-up, not a bone density test, not a referral to a specialist, nothing to say you might have osteoporosis and you need to get this investigated. And so we've been working over the last 2 years within the bone health community to make sure that we do have a care pathway that CMS, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, recognize, and that they allow clinicians to bill to that so that they can do all the follow-up care that is absolutely necessary. And so that's one of the things we've been working on. But the other things we've been working on are really practical things that I think you would imagine already should be inexistent and unfortunately aren't. But one of those was Nurse Practitioners in Women's Health, which is an organization we work with all the time. And nurse practitioners are, as you know, super central to patient care at many, many facilities and clinics these days. And they have a Well Women app, which is available to all nurse practitioners, actually available to us if you want to download and look at it, but it's available to all nurse practitioners. And in it, there was a tiny little section about bone that was underneath the menopause section. And that was it. And so we said to them, well, if we give you all the information, can we create a bone health section? That should be from birth to grave again, right? What do young people need to know? I mean, the Well Woman visits, as you know, probably start around 18. Some of you might know this more than me, but when you're coming in for your checkup and it's just a Well Woman visit, but still, what are we telling young women about their bone health and making sure they're getting calcium and vitamin D and exercise and all of those things? Certainly, as we start the menopausal transition, what are we telling women then when they come in for their Well Woman visit about what they should be paying attention to, whether or not they're at risk, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm very pleased that that has been completed and is now part of the Nurse Practitioners on Women's Health app. So all nurse practitioners will see it and be able to identify as their patients come in, oh, bone is something I'm supposed to be talking about during this Well Woman visit. And again, I think that's really practical and useful, and I'm excited about that. And that's really going to impact your care as well. The more resources we get in the hands of clinicians that make it simple and easy for them to address the needs of patients who have bone loss is going to be really, really important. We've also done a bunch of webinars that focused on advancing education in bone health within the communities. As you can see, various topics on it. And we're kind of a different nonprofit in that I sort of say we're a hybrid of that. There's patient advocacy organizations, and then there's kind of professional society organizations that do clinical education. And our organization does both. And that's good. I think it's really good because we're providing a lot of the patient experience to the clinicians during their training. And then also we have these fantastic resources of all of these fantastic clinicians who have spent time becoming experts in bone, and they become at our disposal to use for all of our educational activities. So it's a nice hybrid. And I only want to put a little bit in here about policy, even though I know that, is probably the least important thing for all of you. But believe it or not, it's one of the most necessary when it comes to how do we advance good care in the United States. And we all know that there are amazing challenges within our healthcare system. So we focus on the coalition that was mentioned in my introduction, where it was, how do we get other organizations that are not specific to bone, but that deal with the same audience of women and men, and how do we get them to promote bone health to their communities? So we've been working with the National Council on Aging. We work with the African American Aging Centers. We work with the Asian and Island Pacific Aging organizations and caregiver organizations to say, you need to be talking about the importance of bone health to your audiences too, and that's been great. And they help us send letters to members of Congress advocating for more research dollars, for more educational information and dollars, and things that will hopefully make an impact. And in exchange, you see my picture with all of these people at the bottom, but we actually announced some Congressional Champion Awards because you have to spur these people on every day. And so in this instance, it was all of the senators and representatives who introduced legislation to increase reimbursement for bone density tests. And again, we're losing practitioners and we're losing people who do bone density tests because the reimbursement rate is so low. So all of this kind of goes hands in hand with the educational and work that we do. And I think it's important that even if it's not in your day-to-day, you know that that's what our organization is doing on behalf of all Americans to make sure we're getting the right care we need for people to get past the fractures and to live a longer, healthier, fracture-free life. Well, these are all the current members of that coalition. As I said, it's really important that we spend a lot of time, at least during my 9 years with the organization, talking amongst ourselves within the bone health community, talking to the endocrine societies and the rheumatology and orthopedics, and never going beyond that. And so this was our attempt to really focus on organizations beyond the bone health field, but certainly also including the bone health field. And lastly, when we talk about where we've been and where we're going, I had shared this and we're posting it on our website too. After we got through the rebrand, our next focus was creating a strategic plan that helps us as an organization, and particularly our board, which is a mix of both clinicians, clinical experts, and patients, and professionals and philanthropic people working together to advance the mission of the organization. And so I wanted a strategic plan that we could publish so that everybody knows this is what we're focused on for the next 3 years. And when people donate to us, this is what your money is going towards, advancing these areas. And this is just sort of the summary, but we really wanted to put educating people about health, bone health throughout the lifespan as one of the primary areas. That gets to our new focus and mission. Actually, sorry, I shouldn't say that. The mission didn't change. The mission has always been to provide educational resources to patients and to clinicians through advocacy, research, and educational programs. But expanding it and balancing it has been what the real focus has been. Rather than all being about post-fracture care, we also need to talk about prevention and empowering people to know what they need to know about their bone health and then how to address it should they end up experiencing osteoporosis. And then obviously expanding the organization's reach and resources. That's my job now as CEO, is making sure I'm out talking at conferences like this, where scientists and funders are here to decide what do they focus on in their research. You know, I need to make sure that they are keeping osteoporosis and bone health as a top priority, and looking for other ways that we can expand what we do and how we do it. And as I said, the more detailed version is published online, and you're welcome to look at that, and would love, you know, any questions you have about the work that we're doing or how we do it. So again, I don't want to take up any more of your meeting time, but I'm really delighted to have an opportunity to give you a little bit more perspective on what we're doing and what role your organization plays in what we do.